There's that old idea that every emotion has a motion that is intended for the benefit of the psyche as a whole. And even rage, which most people see as destructive, but there's a notion that says that as a child, the child will generate enough emotional intensity to respond to the way in which it's being mistreated. Using that emotional logic, person that has a rage issue had to generate that amount of rage in order to preserve their integrity in the face usually of a parent that is out of control. Blaming them for their rage is a mistake, because their rage is actually there to cohere or protect a psyche that was otherwise distinctly threatened. That we got the damn injury as a little kid, and now we have to convince the psyche that we're not a little child, that yes, it did happen, but it's not continuing to happen, and if someone steps on my toe, it doesn't mean they're about to hit me with an axe. We have to make these little distinctions, you know, and work on them. And at the same time, realizing there was a reason why it's there. We have ego attitudes as well as cultural beliefs that are too narrow for what's inside ourselves. This is a human condition. If we don't slay, break, slice, dice, open up those ego attitudes, then the deeper amount of energy for life cannot come through. The energy for life at the turn of the century was named libido by Freud, and then Jung took it on. I want to follow that path a little bit. Freud introduced the term as an instinctual force that comes into conflict with the conventions of civilized behavior. It is the need to conform to society and its controls that leads to the tension and disturbance in the libido of the individual. This disturbance Freud called neuroses. Really, the neurotic thing usually surfaces as a body symptom so that the body gets stuck with the energy that can't be lived out because of the restriction of the family and the society. So what Jung adds to this rough idea of what's going on is he says the problem isn't simply reduction of libido, it's a domestication of vital energy caused by a constriction of one's imagination. So the beginning of the loss of the vital energy starts with a constriction of the imagination. That is something that has domesticated what is otherwise vital and raw, primal in its energy. Jung takes it into this idea that we are carrying attitudes that are not necessarily natural to us, that we have received and absorbed, that is causing our imagination to be limited, and that in turn is reducing our vital energy. And for many, it's creating symptoms and even neuroses, because the energy is there, but it cannot get through the narrow, restricted, domesticated attitude of the person. The idea isn't get rid of all attitudes and everybody runs wild. That's what Freud was afraid of. If you remember, where he ran into problems, he said in the depth of the psyche was a primal horde that is going to run wild and commit acts of cannibalism. But there's a deeper idea that humans have an innate morality. And so there's a real important argument here about, is the energy inside people, the vital life energy, anarchic or purposeful? You see? Left on our own, are we going to become anarchists or vitally purposeful? This is a huge argument. It's really big time argument. It goes back to the tabula rasa. The tabula rasa was the idea that the soul is born with nothing in it, a complete blank slate, tabula rasa, scraped table. And then it's the teaching, it's the commandments, it's the outer morality, it's the instruction that causes the person to have direction and meaning. On their own, they have none. That's what the Western world is built upon. And the problem with that is it denies innate gifts that might be present to begin with. And so the other argument is no, the person comes in with genius and purpose already in the soul. Two very different views of the world. Two very different views of the world. And remember, we're in a culture that has more people in prison than any other country, any other culture in the world. They're now calling it officially 2.8 million. The increasing number of kids on medication, and I don't know what the number is, but it is scandalous, beyond scandal, they're treating the eruption of vital energy in kids by medicating them, which is another restriction, and that causes, in the long run, neurosis, not to mention drug addiction and so on. And so part of the whole thing is the fear that if we don't do something with it, it's going to run wild.